So can I be real with y'all for a little bit? So before I came to Christ, before I was saved, I was in a very worldly relationship. We constantly did things we weren't supposed to do. Stuff that was intended for marriage, like sex before marriage, we casually did that. Like, that was just something we did. Like, before you're saved, when you're not saved, you don't think you're doing anything wrong. The world, we've done such a good job in this world of normalizing things that shouldn't be normal, like sex before marriage. It's such a big thing now. And it's terrible. Because I've been on that side, and now I am where I am. Like, I'm actually saved. I understand what I did was wrong. Like, now that I'm looking back and seeing, I was like, wow, I really messed up. Like, that's really wrong. Sex before marriage, I'm not saying sex is a bad thing, but sex before marriage is a very bad thing. Because sex is meant for marriage. Sex can be a great thing, but it's meant for marriage. So, I want to start off by saying 1 Corinthians 6:18 tells us that flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a person commits is outside of the body, but sexually immoral person sins against its own body. And it says that our body is a temple for the Holy Spirit. See, the Holy Spirit lives inside of us. So if we're committing sexual immorality, we're committing sins against our own body. Like cussing or lying. That's sinning, but that's not sinning with our body. Like having sex, we use our body, and that's sinning against our body, the body that God gave us. See, we're like a roommate. I'll get into that later, but our body, we are roommates. This isn't our body. Yeah, so I just actually said that. I kind of got a little bit into my notes here. But, anyway, so we are roommates who live here. God gave us this body for a short time. We're not going to be here forever. We got a spiritual body up there. This is our temporary body. This is our body, dude, that's ready for that one, So the body we live in now is not our house. It's not our final destination. This is where we're a roommate. God let us live in this house that we have. This isn't our actual house. So nowadays, though, it's so common for worldly relations to have sex. I'm in my senior year of high school, and this is like, if you've ever been in high school, this is all people talk about. Like, oh, did you hear them and them have sex? Or did you know that they and them have sex? Like, it's all about sex. Sex, it's terrible. Like, so many people are talking about their favorite porn star. They're talking about their favorite, like, porn type. And it's terrible. Like, it's so, like, the world is ran by sex. And it just sucks. There's so many sexual morality. So many people are just giving up their purity like that. Like, and like, freshmen, they're like, oh, finally lost my virginity. Like, no, stop. Don't be celebrating that stuff. That's for marriage, homie. Like, come on, bro. Man, take it from me. Like, I lost that at a very young age, and I regret it every single day. Like, oh, man. And I wish every day, I just made the anxiety and worrying one, and this is the one thing that makes me worry. Like, I lost that at such a young age, and I can never get that back. Like, that first purity, that first, like, I'll never get that back, and it sucks, and it's just a burden on me. But with Christ, I'm born new, and that's a whole nother sermon there. But so, I'm not saying that sex is bad. I'm not saying by any means that sex is bad, because God made it for a good thing, It's supposed to unite and bring married couples together. Like, it's actually meant to bring people, it's like a bonding experience. But, as the world always does, it makes good things bad. Like the rainbow, for example, it was once good, but now it's bad. LGBTQ and stuff. The upside down cross, it was once good. I can't remember, I think it was John, maybe not. But he chose to be crucified upside down because he didn't want to disrespect Jesus. But now, Satanists, they went crazy and made the upside down cross a bad thing. But anyway, the world, we're so good. Like, the world is so good. I don't want to say world, like, weird, because I'm not part of the world. But anyway, the world, they're so good at making good things bad. And it really, really sucks. So, yeah, so pretty much the world, they abuse the good things. They make it something bad. But so we'll get back into that in a minute. But what I really want to talk about is Christian dating or Christian relationships. What it should look like, what we should and shouldn't be doing, and simple stuff like that. See, I wish I told myself this a long, long time ago. Like, this is a sermon for miniature Kodis. So miniature Kodis, if you ever come to the future, watch this, because I'm going to do some things you regret, buddy. But anyway, so now, first off, I want to point out that not everyone is promised marriage. Believe it or not everyone is promised marriage, and it sucks. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you are promised marriage, or does it say that everyone is promised marriage. Like, it really sucks, yes. But let me tell you this, God's will is better than your will. I can guarantee you. See, God God can see your whole timeline. He can see his plan he has for you, but we can only see like a few hours. If that. We can only see a few minutes. We can't even see our future, actually. I don't know what I'm going to do after this. I might go to McDonald's. I might go to, like, pizza. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing in the future, but God, he knows my whole timeline. He knows what I'm going to do before, like, he knows the whole timeline. So, the reason you're not dating, it could be for a reason like God doesn't have you marrying someone. It could be for a reason like God doesn't let you date people. There's various reasons. But God also gives us free will. So if you choose to say, goodbye, God, I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to go do what I want. Kind of like an exception. But follow God's will, because God's plan for you is so much better than the plan you have for yourself. I guarantee you that. So now, second thing, I want to point out that God should always be first in relationships. Always, no matter what, you should always put God first and that person second. Even if you're married, God, your spouse. Put God first. I guarantee you, if you put that person above God, it's not going to work out. It will not work out. I guarantee you, it's going to suck. And it's not going to work out. I'm not saying that if you put God first in every relationship that it's going to work out, even with unbelievers, because that is simply not true. Because, we'll get into that in a second here. But always put God first. And don't be that person that's like, oh, maybe I can change them. I'm going to follow God, but this person doesn't believe. We'll get into that here in a minute. But anyway, so God can bring people in our life for various reasons. To teach us a lesson, to help us grow a little bit, to hurt us for something. There's many reasons. I'm not God, so I don't know why he does the things he does. But if we knew why God does things, we wouldn't need him. So anyway, what does a godly relationship look like? What does a godly relationship look like? Well, 2 Corinthians 6:14 is a great example of this. It says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or with what fellowship has light with darkness? What accord has Christ with Belial? I don't know that word. Or what portion does a believer share with an unbeliever? So, wrap that up. Pretty much just saying, what does good have any right to do with bad? Why should a good thing be with a bad thing? If you're going to be with someone that makes you stumble, if you're going to be with someone that makes you fall far from God, why would you want to be with them? Why would you want to, why would you want to sacrifice that? Why would you want to do that to yourself? So, for what partnership does righteousness have with lawlessness? You should never date an unbeliever. I guarantee you they're going to make you stumble and fall. Take it from me. I fell into a relationship with an atheist. I fell into sexual sin. I fell into sexual immorality. I did things I told myself that I personally would never do in my life. I completely ruined my life. This kind of ruined me. It was building my testimony, because after that happened and that ended, I went through a very, very deep place in my life. And it's a whole story itself, the whole testimony video. And we'll get to that another day. But right now we're going to continue talking about what we're talking about. So never have that mindset I could change them. I could make them follow Christ. I could do this and that. Maybe if God is calling you to, and for a fact that God is telling you to do that, go for it. Follow God. Do what he has planned for you. But if at all costs, try to avoid it. Try to avoid being with people that aren't equally yoked with you. Try to avoid getting into relationships, like love relationships, partner relationships with atheists, because it just helps you stumble and fall. And take it from me. Just take it from me. I strongly recommend. Don't do it. Don't risk it. Don't scratch the itch. So second, Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron. And so in a relationship, you want to help build each other. And you want to help each other grow stronger to God. That's kind of the point of Christian relationships, the unity and growing closer to God. So that's why God pretty much made marriage. You can worship together. You can grow together. You can do all these things and stuff like that. So let me explain the proverb real quick. So iron sharpens iron. You're probably like, okay, Kodis, what does that mean? So an iron axe, okay? Iron axe, pretty dull, pretty strong, but you start cutting down wood, okay? This wood, it makes the axe dull, it makes the axe less strong. So you get an iron blade sharpener, you put that iron axe on it, you kind of make it sharper. So the iron sharpens the iron, but the wood makes the axe dull. So iron sharpens iron. So yeah, we need to have iron to help us get stronger and sharper with the Lord. So now let's dive even deeper. So we've covered that we're not all promised marriage, and relationships can be a good thing, but we also need to be with fellowship with believers, and we need people to help us push our faith. So now, what should we do when we actually get into a relationship? Well, here's my advice. Put God first. You know, you need to try to study together, try to study the Word together. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like when you're in a relationship with a Christ-centered relationship, you need to have that fellowship with God together. So read your Bibles together, worship together, pray together, like do all these great things. But also, I'm going to tell you this. Yes, those two are great when you're talking to God, but also have your own separate time with God. Because yes, God loves hearing you guys. He loves third wheeling with you guys, but he also wants to hear from you separately. He also wants to listen to you and watch you grow separately. So yes, great. It's great to study together. It's great to be together. It's great to do things together, but also make sure you're doing stuff alone. Make sure you're also, having that little separate time where it's just you and God. Because the you and God, I guarantee you, is more powerful than like more people in God. Like at least for me, from my experience, it's just I like that alone time with Jesus where I can be completely honest. Because if I'm with someone, I might sugarcoat and be like, oh God, I'm struggling and stuff. But when I'm like alone with God, it's just me and God. I'm like, God, I'm struggling with like lust. I'm struggling with cussing. Like you can be more open, it seems like, because there's not that other person there kind of making you feel like, oh, I don't want to admit when I'm doing wrong. So if it's just you and God, it's easier to kind of be open and honest, at least from what I have figured out. So now, before you even get into relationships, you have to make sure that you are right with God. You have to make sure that you are completely right with God. Do not bring baggage into a relationship. Do not bring struggles into a relationship, because that's not going to be fun for everybody. If you're struggling, that's not going to be fun for the other person. So, now, and then if you're right with God, you can help lead the other. Wait, let me recap here. So, 350. So before you even get into a relationship with Christ or a Christ-centered relationship, I want to tell you this, that you need to make sure that you are right with God. You need to make sure you're not struggling really hard with this thing or you're not really far from God. Don't just jump into that stuff. So make sure you have all this baggage off you, because if you bring in baggage into a relationship, I guarantee you it's going to suck for both people. Like if you're bringing all this hurt, anxiety, like all of this stuff, it's going to bring both of you down. So make sure you at least get right with God. Try to get rid of some of that baggage, And so if you're right with God, he can help you lead to the person that he may intend for you. So if you're right with God and you're perfect with God, the closer you are with God, the easier it is to hear him and to understand him. So the closer you are to God, the easier it is for him to kind of guide you to the right person that he may have intended for you. And so step 1, be close to God. Get as close as you can with God. Step 2, put God first. Even if you are married to this person, it's your wife. No, God goes first. It goes God, wife, children, church, friends, all that stuff. Put God first in everything you do. Step 3, don't scratch the itch. Now let me explain this one. This is a little thing I made that I kind of like. So let me explain that real quick. So I personally struggle with lust. I'll admit it. I am a person that struggles with lust. So when I get into a relationship, I don't want to do all that kissing stuff. I don't want to have any temptation, anything that will help make me stumble or fall. So, straight up, don't kiss. For me, don't kiss. Because kissing can lead to making out. Making out can lead to bad things. So, straight up, don't kiss. That's just how it is for me, because I don't want to stumble and fall. And if you yourself have that rule too, where you're like, oh, I don't want to kiss, but then your partner is like, well, why not? Like, it's not that bad. If your partner is making you seem like the bad guy, they can't respect your own wish. How is the irony? Oh man, I've been there before, where it's like, come on man, it's not that bad. Well, like why don't be with someone that's gonna be like, it's not that bad. Like just don't be with someone like that, because if they can't respect your wishes, goodbye. It's not gonna work. If you can't respect me trying to get close to God, goodbye. Straight up. So don't scratch the itch, and if there is a thing that's making you stumble, eliminate it. So I have a few little things here that can help you kind of eliminate all of that temptation into relationships. So step 1, if you have friends or whatever, if you live at your parents or whatever, and you bring your girlfriend home or whatever, and you're just planning on watching a movie, and you go to your room, which is kind of risky, make sure you have your door open. Always leave your door open, because with that door closed, people can't see what's going on, and it can be a little like tempting, I guess you could say. Now, number 2, stay in the living room or just stay near people. Because if you're by people, bad things aren't going to happen. Unless, but just stay in public is the third one too. Stay in public. Number 3, try not to be so touchy and cuddly. Try not to be all up on that person and kissing and cuddling. Try not to be so like touchy, lovey-dovey, I guess. So temptation is easy to fall into, One smell of blood can make a shark hungry for forever. So like if you get that itch, like once you start itching, you're going to start itching forever. That itch, it's going to be hard to. So yes, and another quote I have here is don't poke the bear, because if you poke the bear, you're going to get eaten. So trust me though, it's way easier said than done. Like I get it, we're humans, so we're going to fall into that stuff and we're going to mess up. But another thing, the last thing here that I think is going to help a lot is set boundaries. Set boundaries. And if that person, if they don't accept your wishes, if they don't accept your boundaries, if they're like, no, I don't agree with that. I think that's stupid. I think that's dumb, whatever. If that person doesn't want you to succeed, then I think you should quickly leave. Love here, I'm going to read what love is. And so, this is what love is according to the Bible. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7, it says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things. Love believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Now, if you ask me, that's a pretty good love right there. That's a pretty good love. The love is not boastful. It's always kind. That's like a perfect example. And that really portrays Jesus. Like this is great for not just relationships, but anything. We're supposed to be called to love like that. Even with people we hate, we're supposed to pretty much exemplify Jesus, and that is one of the greatest ways. Love everyone. Love your neighbor, and love your father. If you ever thought about that, it makes a cross. So love your neighbors, because your neighbors are amongst us, and love God, your Father. Makes a cross. Pretty neat. Anyway, so how do you not fall into that sexual temptation? Stay in public, try not to be cuddly and touchy, and set ground rules. I think that's the biggest thing. And get close to God. Put God first. Put God first in everything you do. So let's wrap this up. Godly relationships should be equally yoked. You need to have fellowship with believers. Get people that are like-minded with you. We need to help push each other to grow. So this is a good example here. So say both of you, you're great, you're on fire with God, but one stumbles. And this one's up here. It can pick each other up. And one falls, pick each other up. But one grows, and it grows with it. Like, they grow together. They just keep pushing each other up and up. So that's why we need to start out equally yoked. Because if we start like this, look, this one can't reach it. You're not equally yoked. But if you get equally yoked, you can help each other, push each other up. One falls down, you got it. Boom. Right there. Equally yoked. That's important. That's my little analogy there we got for you. So always put God first. And so I talked about that. Also, don't scratch the itch. Don't scratch temptations. If there's something that makes you tempted, then try to avoid it at everything you can. Set ground rules. Lay out the do's and don'ts. Like, hey, I don't want to kiss, or hey, we can hold hands, or like stuff like that. Number 4, be like Jesus. Be straight up like Jesus. Love. Be kind. Do not boast. Be patient. Don't be rude. Endure all things. And so there will be troubles in relationships, though. I will tell you that. Even in a Christ-centered relationship, there is going to be troubles. Like that's with everything, though. Like every relationship's going to have troubles. I guarantee you, Billy Graham and his wife, they probably argued about stuff here and there, but they still endured till the end. That they still loved each other. Like, just because God is first, like me and my mom, we love God, but we still argue. Like, we're still, I don't know if that's a good example or not, but yeah, so put God first. That's really the big gist here. In Christian relationships, put God first. Set some ground rules. Worship together and also worship separately, because God gets tired of third wheeling sometimes. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I love you guys so much, and Godspeed.